Hi everyone. So I want to get on here and talk about a question that I see come up a lot with different puppy owners asking if it's a good idea to bring home another puppy when you already have a young dog at home. So by young dog, I'm talking about a dog who's under a year old, so a puppy or an adolescent who is still young at your house. Obviously, there's lots of different lifestyles, and everybody's different, everybody's household's different, everybody's dog is different. So I can't give you a definite yes or no, you should do this or you shouldn't. But what I want to do in today's video is talk about a few things that you should consider before you make that final decision. And so let's kind of go through some of the pros and the cons of getting a puppy while you still have a young dog at home. So some of the pros are, the biggest pro that I have found, because I have done this, I have trained 2 puppies at once. I have even trained 3 puppies at once for a short stint. I don't recommend 3. That's a lot unless that is your job, like it is mine. But if you already have another job you're working, that's too much to focus on in my personal opinion. But 2 puppies at once, I've done 2 and I've done 1. And there's definitely a difference, and so I kind of want to unpack that a little bit more. The biggest pro that I have found personally whenever I was training 2 puppies at once is they can play together, assuming they get along, they can play together and provide amazing exercise for each other. Something I no longer have to be the main source of is exercise when you have a multi-dog household. And that is really, really nice. It is a huge plus, a huge bonus. One of my favorite things about having a multi-dog household is the fact that my puppy can play with another puppy or a puppy-safe adult and get their energy out, and that's something I don't have to spend 20 minutes doing that day. And so that's a huge bonus. They also have the companionship of the other dog or puppy. They will have they won't have to be as needy on you, if that makes sense, because they already have another companion, and I think it's a good thing to have more than one dog if that's what you're interested in having, just because it can be a lot of fun for your other dog. If you don't have more than one dog, your puppy doesn't know any he grows up. As long as you provide for his needs, it's no big deal. But it can provide, having 2 puppies or 2 dogs can provide a lot of exercise that you don't have to do all yourself, especially if they're both younger. Then they're gonna want to play, they're gonna want to use their energy, and that's just something you don't have to do. That is the main pro. Those are the main pros. A couple of the cons that I want to talk about is it is definitely at least twice the work. Depending on your situation, depending on the day, how things line up, it can be at least twice the work, sometimes 3 times the work, to have 2 puppies. And this is gonna look different and vary depending on the ages of your puppies. If you have an 8-week-old puppy and you already have a 6-month-old puppy, your struggles are going to look different than somebody who has 2 8-week-old puppies. If they actually adopted 2 puppies at the same time. I've done it both ways. I've had two puppies the same age, and I've had a younger dog and a young puppy at the same time. And as far as the age gap goes, I'm really not sure there's a huge difference as far as workload. It's different because, like, if I have 2 puppies that are the same age, they're both potty training at the same time, and you take one out because it needs to go, and the other one goes while you're outside, so it's still in the house and it goes, or just little things like that. If they're in the same stage. But if they're not in the same stage, then you have one who's having to go outside every 10-15 minutes some days, it seems like, and then you have another one who is more in the adolescent stage, who is maybe getting into stuff he shouldn't get into, or just needing extra energy, or just having an off day where just nothing is going right with him. So you're gonna have the 2 different stages. You're gonna have each stage has its own problems, and you're gonna be dealing with 2 different stages and their problems at the same time. When it all comes down to it, I'm not really sure. For me personally, I've noticed much of a difference in the workload, but it's just different ways your mind has to go, and so that's something to consider if that is important to you. Another con is the fact that you are gonna have to spend, it's kind of like what I said, it's not necessarily twice the work, it could be 3 times the work, and because they're, especially if they're the same age, but even if they're not, they spend a terrible amount, too much time with each other, then you can develop issues like they can't work together, they can't work separately, or they get anxious when the other one isn't around, or potentially jealous or whatever. So in a way, so you're going to have to put some extra work into them when they're young to prevent something like that from happening by having training sessions that are each one individually, where you're working with your older dog, your older puppy, while your younger puppy is out of the room, in a different room, taking a nap in his crate or something like that, and then vice versa. You're also going to need to have training sessions where you work them both together. If you have 2 puppies at the same time, 2 young dogs at the same time, they are likely to feed off each other. If you have a multi-dog household, that happens, but especially if they're both young and impressionable, if one has a bad habit, regardless of the age difference, typically, you know, the older dog is going to lead the younger dog, but if they're both pretty young, then they might flip back and forth who you lead to, and they're both still very impressionable, so if one of them has a bad habit, they're likely to both pick up the bad habit, and you're going to have twice as much work to work through that. Barking can be an issue because barking just can be a big issue with a multi-dog household, and so if you have 2 puppies at the same time, that's just going to be part of it because you have a multi-dog household now. So barking can be another issue. Any behavioral problem can escalate when you have multiple dogs and multiple puppies, especially. So that's something to consider, and this is when it kind of depends on your personality and who you are and what you like and what works best for you. Because I really personally like to just focus on 1 puppy at a time. That is my ideal. And so if we're going for an ideal and you want to have 2 puppies and you want to have 2 dogs and you just got your first one and you really have a hard time waiting until your second one, the ideal situation, in my opinion, just going off of my experience and how I like to work with, I find it easiest to work with just 1 puppy at a time, because then you can really deal with them. I do better focusing on just 1 puppy and its problem or whatever it has, its needs, at a time instead of 2. But obviously I can do 2, and I do fairly often. But my recommendation in that situation would be to wait until your first dog is about a year old, and then you can bring in your next puppy. And the reason why I'm saying a year is because, yes, your puppy is not a adult when he's just 1, but he is, he's gone through a lot. There's a whole bunch of developmental changes that happen during that first year. You have the potty training, you have all, if you set it, you know, have all the house training and house manners training and obedience training and all that kind of stuff that goes into place. You have all the developmental changes as his body is growing and as his mind is growing and maturing. A lot of the hardest part of adolescence is right around, is usually before his first birthday. And so once you get past that year, yes, your puppy is not an adult and he's certainly not perfect, but we're going up instead of, or we've kind of reached the peak and things start to get easier, if that makes sense. I kind of mixed up my analogy, but you're not having to work uphill, I guess is what I'm saying. You can start coasting a little bit once he turns a year old, because as long as you set a really good foundation for his training and everything in the beginning, which is why if you only have 1, it's easier to do that. So that's what my ideal recommendation is, to wait and to have a year, basically have a year gap between your 2 puppies. That's ideal. Obviously, if you choose to get 2 puppies at the same time, or you choose to add another puppy once your slightly older puppy is a little older, then that's your decision, that's up to you. I just want to bring up some of these things for you to consider and for you to think about. as you make that decision. If you found this video helpful, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel, and also share this video anywhere else you think other puppy owners would find it helpful. Have a great day.